I just want to play, like, I want to play a version of an NPC game I'm running who's kind of an asshole, who talks a lot, but is not necessarily talking. So that's kind of why a little bit of that.
I play that character in Pathfinder. I have charisma.
The fact that that tanky kind of guy is also helping me to direct me to that route. Because if you talk a lot but you can't talk very well, you're gonna have to throw your fist.
Like a man that just stands in the back. He's like, yeah.
I know that's me helping.
I'm gonna assist by saying
yeah. No, talks a lot. Not like the muscle that stands there flexing, going yeah. Like yeah. Look, listen. Yep, just what he said. You hear what he said. He said what he said. And what he said was what you needed to listen to, and now you listening to what he said because he already said what he said. If you ain't listened to what he said already, you missed what he said. And what he said was what he said. If you weren't listening, you weren't listening. I can't help you weren't listening. All right, like that kind of, like a jerk, like
it's like not actually saying anything, but a lot of words are coming out.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kind of dive back into it. You guys have picked out your special abilities, assigned your dots. The next thing that we need to do is, let me just take a look real quick here, is choose one close friend and one rival. When you look at that list of on the right hand side, for example, it says strange friends. You'll see a list of, let's see, 2, 4, 5 different NPCs there. You can pick one to be an arrow and one to be a down arrow. As far as any extra information, what you have is what is all entirely available inside the book. It's up to us to kind of define who these people are. So if you like Nyrix, a professed ghost, then you can give me details about who Nyrix is.
2 people have Nyrix, right? What's the other playbook that has Nyrix?
There's quite a few actually doubled up on different playbooks, and that's kind of done on purpose. Duskfall, while kind of a bigger city, also has this element of, if you're in the underground, you know other people in the underground.
If we have any that are doubled up, I am interested in having that happen.
I like the idea of having Nyrix as a positive and Satara as a negative.
Okay. So I like Satara kind of the way that John has canonized her as this ancient sea that's kind of weirdly bound to Skurlock, which is something you as a Whisper would understand. It's rumored among Whispers that there's some sort of ancient pact between Skurlock and Satara that sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're enemies. They have a really strange relationship that it gives and takes as time goes on. There's a lot of like questionable things that come from Lord Skurlock's manor.
I could also kind of by proxy have Skurlock as a negative relationship.
Or a positive.
So you're going to pick one, but your interactions in the story may turn Skurlock into a negative.
Yeah. Okay, who is Lord Skurlock? I keep hearing about him in like other games of Blades.
Lord Skurlock is a person that pretty much the entire city knows but doesn't necessarily say because it would be unkosher to do, is a vampire. He's been around for like hundreds of years. Everybody knows that he is, but it's like if Dracula was in your town but he didn't want to rule it. You just want to leave him alone. Just let him do his Dracula thing. Hopefully he doesn't bother anybody.
Hey, Skurlock, I haven't seen you in like 20 years. You haven't changed a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Skurlock used to be the lead investigator for the Spirit Wardens, which is kind of interesting about him.
We don't like those people, probably.
Most likely your game is not interested in playing with the Spirit Wardens. And to be fair, anybody who does anything related to a tune does not want to deal with the Spirit Wardens.
They're not going to like us.
Okay. So I see that Nelson's got a positive with Nyrix, which I'm going to note here. The Professor Ghost. Nyrix is kind of a gender-neutral term. Are you able to identify what the professor's gender is? Or is that something that has just never really crossed your mind?
Does the Possessor Ghost have to be... does the Possessor Ghost need to maintain the same body that it possesses?
No, they typically do, out of habit. In fact, you're going to know which body that... Because you have a good relationship with Nyrix, you're going to know whose body she, or P, typically inhabits.
I only ask because, in my own mind, I like the idea of this ghost kind of being a bit mischievous and switching bodies, where I'll know Nyrix by looking at a person, though Nyrix isn't always the same person.
Yeah, Nyrix will be interesting. I'll keep that in mind. Let me put a note here.
Have you ever seen that movie Hardcore Henry?
I have not, but I have the idea of what you're talking about.
All right.
And your downvote was with Satara?
Yep, the demon.
Okay.
I know. Let's antagonize
Great.
the biggest, oldest thing we can find.
What could
This is gonna be
possibly
great.
go wrong with that?
Next, let's talk about Ronan. Ronan, your shrewd friends is what the list is called. Is there any that stand out to you?
So the two that I had in mind, for my ally, I was thinking Jaren, the goat archivist.
Okay.
I kind of almost imagine them having, like, during their education, maybe they were both kind of brought up under well-to-do families, and they kind of were study buddies during education, and kind of as they've gone down different paths as far as their current actions go, there's kind of a connection there that they've maintained. Him being the archivist for the Bluecoats, and Ronan kind of doing what he's doing now.
Okay. And your negative, it looks like, is with Salia. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So, this is for you, because I didn't want to ruin it before it got to that. You know that Nyrix typically inhabits Salia's body.
Jesus.
Sometimes she's friendly, sometimes she's... Oh, God. Eventually, we're going to walk up to her.
It will make
thinking
interesting
she's Nyrix.
interactions, because when she's by herself, or when she's possessed, she may act differently.
Call in a favor or two.
Let's see, for... who are your relationships with?
So, okay, what is a psychonaut?
A psychonaut is, the way they describe it inside here, someone who induces themselves in enough attunement and drugs and nonsense that they lose themselves mentally to discover maybe metaphysical secrets about the world. Maybe.
So they're like super hippies.
Yeah, kind of. The way I
But
think
for
about it
science?
is... What was that movie where they had the guys in the army that were trying to, like, hypnotize goats?
Men who stare at goats.
Yeah, men who stare at goats. That's a psychonaut, honestly. Yeah, now I just picture the big-ass Akarosi goats with their huge horns, like, in a dude stare.
So, what I've noticed is that leeches like Stasia, the apothecary, because she is very useful.
Mm-hmm.
So Stasia is going to be my enemy.
Okay.
And I think Jewel, the blood dealer, is going to be my friend, because Piper/Simon is obsessed with Leviathan hunters, because they are the greatest machines in the world.
Okay, so...
And Jewel, he is a blood dealer, but he is definitely, like, he has a job on a Leviathan hunter.
Okay. So that brings up kind of an interesting
And so she
question.
used
Is
to
Jules a
get into
blood
the engine
dealer?
rooms
Does-
sometimes.
Does Jewel operate with things besides Leviathan blood?
Oh, you froze. I have no idea what you're saying.
Oh, I was saying that Jewel's a blood dealer, and in here it's not really defined exactly. Would Jewel operate in other types of blood besides Leviathan blood?
I mean, I mean, blood dealer to me just jumped out as Leviathan blood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's worth the risk to him. He tried it like twice. He's dealt in human blood twice. It didn't go well. He sticks to the legal stuff. Like, it's legal. He has a legal
The more
reason to have
accessible
it.
and less risk to himself type stuff.
He has reason to have access to it, and then he can do illegal things from there.
Mm-hmm.
It's strangely enough easier to get the blood of the immortal sea demons than it is the blood of people,
Okay, perfect.
because there's
So
an
chances
economy.
are he's probably not dealing with grave robbers and stuff like that then.
No.
Perfect. So that gives me an idea of who he is. And I've got your list of peoples here. So let me go ahead and close out some of my windows that I've got going now. Alright, so here is the fun part. We get to choose vices. This is the part that makes your character interesting. Basically, a vice is exactly what you understand a vice to be. From the list, you can choose gambling, luxury, obligation, pleasure, stupor, and weird. Once you pick out who your vice is, we'll look at the vice purveyors list, and we can figure out who provides you that vice, which will be a detail that you'll put on your character sheet next to your vice. Now I know that you guys have been excited about this part because this is what makes your characters horrible individuals in the long run. So let's go down the list with Nelson, because I saw the little hand dance over there and I feel like he's the most excited.
Well, here's the thing. I wanted to go with gambling.
Mm-hmm.
Because, nothing fits a jerk like having a gambling habit, right? But then I started thinking about Nyrix, and I was wondering, could I have an obligation to Nyrix?
You absolutely can. So, what would that obligation be? Like, what ties you to Nyrix?
I don't know how intertwined within my story I could make Nyrix.
You can go as far as you want. Nyrix is... Any of these NPCs, they're literally just the name and the detail that you've received. So it's up to us to breathe life into them.
So what I was thinking of is that, like, Nyrix and I, when Nyrix alive, Nyrix was a little girl, right? So we grew up as stress in our little clique, and she's the only one that I kind of like really hung with, and spent the most of my time with. But me being the sort of, talking long before I have a thought about what I'm doing, I kind of got Nyrix killed. And, as time went by, I started to see Nyrix in other people and thought I was going crazy, but it was basically Nyrix's spirit possessing bodies to screw with me for getting her killed.
Okay.
So now, whatever obligations he throws my way, I'm like, fine.
Okay, so it's like an emotional obligation. Now, you do have a positive relationship with Nyrix, so I would assume that means that Nyrix has come to the point where she has kind of forgiven you for it at this point.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, sure, she's dead, but you gave her all these cool ghost powers.
That is sweet. All right. Got that notated here. And for Ronan, what's your vice?
So I'm going to be going with pleasure, specifically towards the arts, and basically the way that I kind of see it playing out. I mentioned kind of earlier, kind of like the starving artist theme.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I want his pleasure being like trying to get like his essays and books published, and like doing like public speaking stuff, trying to like get into debates with people, or
Okay.
like giving talks or like doing book readings and just really weird stuff like that. Just like eventually, if he keeps doing that enough, it'll spark something, and he won't have to do this anymore.
Okay, yeah, I like that. There's actually a lot of opportunity for that to go wrong, which sounds terrible for you, but is great for the story.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just basically having all of his information and ideas put out there is simultaneously his dream and his nightmare. So there's a lot of weird ways for that to go.
Okay, and for Simon?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I have a few ideas. I'm torn between something just like. Have you ever played Gun?
I have not, but I've seen a lot of playthroughs of it.
There's a character named Sokolov in Dishonored who is this brilliant scientist who is obsessed with getting the attention of the outsider.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I'm looking weird, thinking, what if she tries to contact ghosts just all the time, and it never works out?
So your advice would be like spectrology and joining like spectrology clubs and stuff like that, playing with Ouija boards.
Yep.
Okay.
Like the best it ever is if she gets possessed for a couple days.
Possessed by Nyrix.
I was going to say that would be the best according
happened a couple times.
to Simon's definition of best, but be quite an experience. So let's think about who your purveyor could be then.
What page is the guys on?
I believe it's $2.99. I have like an old scan of Vice purveyors, so let me see here.
Yeah, it's $2.99.
Yeah. Let's see if there's anything in Faith that would make sense still. I would say that Lord Penderin from the Archive of Echoes in Charter would make sense.
4.
I would also say like the hooded proprietor of the half-sunken grotto tavern in the docks, Strange Passageways to Stranger Chamber would make a lot of sense too. We'll stick with the idea of like a spectrology club. We can just come up with an NPC that runs the spectrology club.
Okay, I've got a weird one. I like Ojak, the Tiger Top Market vendor, because it means I can end up buying like the idea of buying these magic crystals you found on the internet that do nothing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the idea of having all these fake ghost finding tools when there's actual real ghost finding tools is kind of hilarious.
Like, you know just enough to be dangerous. Like, you know that there is stuff to do this, just not using the right stuff.
And sometimes it turns out real poorly.
All right, perfect. Next, you're going to record your names, which you guys already have. Your alias, which you guys have already given me. On the overlay for anybody who's watching, I'm going to refer to you guys as your alias. If you ever want to switch that up and confide your real name with an NPC, that's what. After that point forward, they're probably going to interact with you on your real name basis. But because the audience is going to see what a lot of the NPCs do, that's why we're doing alias on the sheet here. Also, you can put down your look. For your look, one of the things that I would look at is describing your gender and maybe like articles of clothing that are noticeable on you or iconic to your character kind of thing. Lastly, I'd take a look at your items. There are some special items that are specific to each class. That is the gray box at the top of the items list. And then there is a list of generic items that anybody can carry. Like, for example, the Whisper Spirit Mask is specific to the Whisper Playbook. However, if later on you wanted something off of a different playbook's item, we could do an acquire asset roll for something like that.
Wait, so we choose one item, right?
Don't worry about choosing items right now. Kind of like in Dungeon World, you pick a load, and it tells you have 3 items, 5 items, and you pick the items when you need them.
All right.
The idea is that your characters are smart criminals and would have planned ahead to have the spirit mask for that moment you really need it, or a grappling gun when you really need it, or whatever the case may be. And I did come up with the noble that was kind of screwed over in your crew's creation, since we're going to be moving to that next. It is Brannon Helker. He is the nephew to Chief Helker, who runs the docks. The next thing that we're going to do is open up the crew, so let me know when you guys are ready for that.
Do you know what those 3-point units are called?
Tricorns.
Okay.
Piper has short cropped hair and wears a newsy cap. Hair is significantly shorter than mine.
Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pop up the crew in front of all of you guys right now. So you guys discussed doing shadows, because I went ahead and filled that in. Typically, shadows is a group of spies, thieves, and saboteurs. There are some things that have already been filled out here once we entered shadows, kind of like when you entered your playbook names, and that kind of gives you an idea of how the game, or how the guild gang works. There we go. When you execute a successful espionage, sabotage, or theft operation, that's going to get you guys crew experience, along with contending with challenges above your station, bolstering your crew's reputation or developing a new one, and expressing the goals, drives, and inner conflict or essential nature of the crew. So basically, RP gets you experience in this game. The first thing that I do want to point out is you do have a couple upgrades that do come with your game, one of which is your lair is hidden, which means that if anybody wants to find you, they actually have to take a downtime action and try and hunt down your headquarters. Which will give you time to either move or possibly push back their chart and keep them from finding you. Or, if you want, you could start a war and kill them before they discover you, which we've seen in other live plays. You also have training and prowess. During your downtime, you can take a couple different actions. One of them happens to be training, and training gets you an experience in the category that you choose. So you can choose Insight, Prowess, Resolve, or your Playbook. Because you have prowess training, whenever you take train on prowess, in those instead of 1 experience, you gain 2. So it is pretty cool to have. I like the is really effective in the long run.
What's nice is it's what none of us specialize in, so it's what we have the most room to improve in.
Except for me.
So I'll go ahead and open up the Christian section of the book here, and you guys time deciding who gets to do the book details. My suggestion is nose goes.
Wait, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Go for it.
I have to ask us after something else. I really need a workshop, or I'm screwed.
Yes, a workshop does help quite a bit.
Fair enough.
Where's the workshop?
It's one of the
Player?
updates. And we'll get to that in a second. We'll talk through it. So, creation we use that our type to start with is going to be shadows. However, we're probably going to dabble into hawkers and possibly smugglers eventually, because smugglers probably have some stuff that's going to be useful to you guys eventually. Your crew is going to begin with 2 coins in its coffers, so you can go ahead and click on that 2 coin. This has already been filled out, but you have a tier 0, a strong hold, and a rep of 0. Essentially, that's to represent that you guys are on the cusp of becoming tier 1. You've got your shit together, you just don't have the finances to do it yet. Alright, next is going to be choosing an initial reputation, and reputation has a choice list again, so I'm going to read them here. You guys pick what reputation you think fits best. If there's one that doesn't seem to fit best, but you guys have another word in mind, we can go with that as well. And we can always expand on these later on, change them if it doesn't fit anymore, so don't feel like this is a constraining item. You guys can be ambitious, brutal, daring, honorable, professional, savvy, subtle, or strange. Or, again, create something else if it makes more sense. What do you think describes your normal operations, how people look at you guys?
What was that list again? The first few?
Yeah, it's ambitious, brutal, daring, honorable, professional, savvy, subtle, and strange.
I kind of like the idea of either ambitious or strange.
I was gonna say ambitious was immediately the first thing that jumped out to me.
Okay.
And if you have other ideas, then by all means,
I was gonna say subtle, but I don't know yet. Ambitious seems like a good starting point.
Yeah, and you guys being in the position that you are, and your characters kind of have lofty goals that you've kind of thought about, so ambitious does make a lot of sense. And maybe we'll discover through play that you guys happen to be subtle, and that's another reputation that you'll take on. So the other thing to talk about is where your crew has their lair located. It could be anywhere in the city. There are a couple of options on this list, or we can make up our own. You could choose something like a half-sunken grotto in the city's mazeless underground canals, an abandoned watchtower atop of an ancient crumbling wall, unassuming back rooms of a merchant shop, a small abandoned house at the end of a dark lane, a rickety tin roof shack perched on top of a rooftop, a junked rail car rusted in place, and its overgrown tracks. Some examples of ones that I've seen in games and made up were like, there's a part of town called Tangletown where a bunch of ships are basically stuck in the river. So I chose to have like a junk fishing trawler that's just buried in the bottom of Tangletown, since it was hidden. I've seen another group that they had theirs basically on the edge of a lightning barrier, and they kept switched around lightning so that they could maintain the barrier around them and keep them safe from the Deathlands and ghosts on that side. But they were kind of on the outskirts of the city, so they were still hidden like that. Your lair happens to be hidden, so no matter how we look at it, we got to think about how it's actually hidden. If it's like something that's hard to access, or something that's somewhere where nobody would think that you would be, kind of thing.
I like that when you said the unassuming room in the back of a merchant shop, since we kind of have emerged in the group.
Yeah, just
Like-
kind of pull like the old classic trope of like the actual shop that's housing the real shop kind of behind it. Like you have like this kind of storefront that's just like some trinkets and just some like, oh, here's our candle store, or it's just something like totally random that no one would think to check out. But
Yeah, sort of like
kind
a
of behind
Bath
it,
Body
or
Works on
yeah, exactly.
We sell all of Simon's failed inventions.
This is a
Have you guys
candle
ever
made from liquefied spirit crystals.
have
We
you
have all the fake ghost devices that he collects on the storefront.
have you guys ever played Shadowrun Dragonfall?
No, I have it on my list for Steam though.
Okay. So the gang in that game Their hideout is like in this community called the Cruise Bazaar, and I just like that idea of us being an established part of a community that like we protect each other. We're hidden because the Bluecoats don't come to this area because it's a slum city of its own.
Okay. Some
If you
areas
think
of
it interests you guys.
It's like kind of like a marketplace where everybody's kind of doing their own shady thing, but also running kind of legit businesses. And everyone just kind of keeps the facade going with everyone else.
We have
There's
our own
like 3
watch.
areas of town that stand out to me. 2 of them are actually the same district. Crow's Foot in general makes a lot of sense because that's where a lot of gangs hide out, and the cops just kind of let the gangs have Crow's Foot because it's easier than fighting all the gangs to try and rid the city of them. Then there's Tangletown, which is that one that I mentioned where it's a bunch of sunken ships and a lot of shady business goes on there. That happens to be part of Crow's Foot. It's just like a specific portion of Crow's Foot. But the area that I think matches the most is Night Market. Night Market is a marketplace and a black market and a trade secret type area, or an area to trade secrets and stuff. So it makes a lot of sense that would be the area probably.
Yeah, it sounds kind of perfect, honestly.
I'm just looking for where that is.
If you go into the Duskfall and Beyond, there are links to different maps. You can click on Night Market and bring a map, which I'm going to show you guys right now. And it kind of shows you the close to Coleridge, Charter Hall, and 6 Hours. The other thing that you can see inside that map is the overlay. I'm going to switch us over to the one that actually has the overlay so I can see this stuff a little easier.
Ooh, we're by the rail station.
Yeah, you are fairly close to the rail station.
Nice.
Let me do this real here. Perfect. There you go. Now you can see where Night Market is. It does put you really close to Gaddock Rail Station. It puts you far away from since you already kind of have a bad connection with some people that control docks. The other thing that's kind of good for you guys is the Night Market area. Let me pull real quick here. If you go into the notables, it actually gives them details about that area of the city. So Night Market notables will tell you that it's a 3 out of 4 dot for wealth, 3 for security and safety, which means there's going to be cops around. But keep in mind, there's also shady stuff that happens here. So like at night, you guys are going to be a little bit more free to move during the day, codes and stuff like that. Criminal influence is here, and that kind of reflects the idea of a day and a nighttime marketplace. And then the occult influence here is very low. It's a 1. The cool thing is while you're in Night Market, it is the best place to trade illicit and arcane goods in the city. But the darker corners are full of strange horrors. You get +1 die to acquire an asset here at the cost of 2 stress if you want. And that's just a unique for that part of town. And that's something that, because you guys are on your turf, that you could access pretty often and pretty easily.
Dig it.
Okay. I'm going to move us back to that map we were previously on. Marking up this map pretty soon, but yeah, mark it right there.
So this is basically where nobles go to interact with the underworld?
Yes.
Okay. That seems like the perfect
This is
place
like
for
the most business front-facing side of the underworld.
It seems kind of like the perfect midway point where the side and the legit all of this kind of clash.
Yeah.
Which is like
a noble that wants to employ the crows will send one of his underlings down to Crow's Foot. But a noble that wants to talk to you guys may actually show up because you're in Night Market, and it's not hard for a noble to be in Night Market.
Yeah.
I like this. And it keeps my out of harm's way.
Okay. So we're gonna go with like an unassuming back room, or maybe like a warehouse in night market is where you guys mainly operate. Okay.
Be
We're going to
specific.
establish your hunting grounds as a group of shadows. You have a couple different options that are available for you for your hunting grounds. I suggested espionage because I think that makes a lot of sense for what you guys are. Basically, what we do is look at the map, and we'll pick an area on the map that would count as where we initially start your control area. Looking at my map, I want to see if there's anything that stands out as something you guys might want to be close to.
What's that thing in the middle of Night Market?
The thing that looks like it's got 3 trees in it, that is hound races. It's a racetrack with a special breed of hounds that is currently vogue among Dustfall's upper crust. Con man from the Dagger Isles calls himself Master Vren. Swindled a small fortune from gullible investors to create a premier hound racing track in the Imperium. The investors have to see their returns, but Vren assures them that a great windfall is due any day now. They also have card tables there. It's like a big dog track casino type place. There's also the Vale, which is a luxurious social club known for its confidentiality and permissive policies. Guests of the arcane or unusual origins frequent there. That is a little bit closer towards Colch, to give you an idea. One of the better tailors inside the city, Dundridge and Sons, is available inside Night Market. And then there's also the Devil's Tooth, which is a tavern known for its secret menu of alchemical concoctions. Is there anything that sounds like something that stands out as a group that would be interesting to be close to?
I think the Veil kind of fits us.
It's a good place to steal secrets from.
Yeah, well, also a good place for you to indulge in your vice.
The Veil is, I'm going to ping it right now, is right here. I would say that you guys put this at hunting grounds. You're fairly close to the Veil, but you don't have enough sway to necessarily control the Veil yet.
We got to change that.
As we play, I'm going to start.
I like the candle shop.
Colors associated with things, so we can show here. And the map will evolve as we play as well. That is because your crew's headquarters is hidden, so most they go some to you. I think the Veil probably is the best bet. It fits kind of your MO. It's local, and it's a good place to meet anybody of different varieties and backgrounds. Plus, they're pretty discretionary, so they most likely will not rat you out to the cops if it came down to it.
So secret rooms underneath a candle shop and Night Market?
You know, it'd be hilarious if our candles were built in a way that they had you know when you have whatever, you get different colors of flame. If they were built into the candles, shop the candle to go to the Veil to select one of those candles.
That makes sense. Yeah.
We have no idea that they're going to the place that we are.
Yeah.
So, but the candle that burns blue in the Veil, and we're the only place that sells those candles. So you buy the candle from us anyway.
So one of the things that we do is once we've picked out the hunting grounds, we talk about whose space you've intruded upon being here. And looking at the fan list, I think the one that makes the most... Let's see here.
Who's gonna hate us?
I don't know. We ambitious, right?
You know what?
Yeah.
Because of the area of town that it is, I'm going to say it's probably the Railjack. You're close to Gaddock Station. Maybe that warehouse used to be a place where parts and stuff were kept. That through some financial wranglings, you got it out from underneath them. Now, with that said, you have 3 options on how you want to deal with them. You can pay them off and give them 1 coin in exchange for giving you the room to work. Basically, establish a central alliance more or less with them. You can pay the faction 2 coin as a show of respect and gain +1 status with them, or you can keep your money and take them. Keep in mind there's going to be another opportunity for you guys to spend money as well. So if you want to sit and wait on deciding that, we can talk about the other factions before you necessarily spend all your coin.
You guys want to hold back?
I don't know. These guys seem like they would be good friends to have, or at least good enemies not to have.
So what do the Railjacks do exactly?
The Railjacks are the people who operate the railways. So you want to be in Gaddock Station area. Some of the goods that you might need for physical items will probably come through the train station. Having a friend in the Railjacks would mean that you could probably get illicit goods to you a little bit easier.
In exchange for 2 coin.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to hold off and
coin
wait
and have
see
just
what it
a
says?
neutral?
I mean, that's what I'm saying, because we only have 2 coin.
I mean, we each have 2 coin to begin with, too, right?
Yes, each character has 2 coin to begin with, but you're talking about.
Chris?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
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 Yes, you're each gonna have 2 coin in your
Do
pocket.
we each start with 2 coin?
Yes.
We can't hear you, Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I can see you thumbing up.
2 coins.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. It just got weird. You have 2 coins as a crew, and then you each individually have 2 coins to start as well.
Awesome. So let's hold off on the Railjacks for now.
Do we have to decide right at this moment, or can we wheel back around to it as we
talk about
find?
which factions you're involved with, make your decisions on how you will spend your turns.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll defer for now then.
And for your hunting, you guys want to go ahead and stick with espionage, or do you want to pick one of these?
Espionage definitely seems to fit the best. All the other ones seem a little more heavy-handed. Sabotage is really the only other one that I could even imagine our crew being involved with, and
Right.
that seems a little.
I mean,
sketchier.
we could burglarize information, but espionage seems to be the best. I just dropped a brush.
Yeah, it's kind of a question of how you want to gain your information. If you think that you guys do it through more social interactions, espionage makes a lot of sense. Though espionage does also cover like breaking and entering and stuff like that. Whereas burglaring, I see it as like taking physical objects like paperwork and things like that so that you have hard evidence of the things that you're selling.
I have espionage down for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a better starting point.
So whenever you guys are on your hunting grounds, you get an additional die to gather information and free downtime action to contribute to that operation. So doing things inside your own area is beneficial to you. When you guys acquire turf, we're going to expand your map a little bit, your area a little bit more each time. Next, we're going to look at special abilities for the Shadow and pick one. On that special ability sheet, it's kind of the same place that your character special abilities were. Is there anything on there that you guys want to discuss through and see what fits for you?
I think slippery is really cool.
I was just reading that one.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that came to mind for me too.
Yeah, I like Slippery mainly because of the second part, which is the reducing heat, which is going to keep you guys out of jail.
Yeah.
Yep.
We need to keep as much attention not on us as possible, especially considering our chosen line of work.
Yeah. We're not a group of roughnecks, so
Yeah.
We work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Slippery it is then.
Okay.
Yeah. As much information about everyone else, the better, but as least information about us as a group.
So I didn't
Better
think about
still.
it when I was talking to you guys about your gang, but I like that because every gang has like one ability that lets you add +1 to 3 different types of actions. The one for Shadows is Prowl, Finesse, and Tinker, which actually fits you guys really well.
everyone steals.
Okay.
I think Slippery might be better for now. Pick up Everyone Steals soon.
Yeah, I might dip into that one next.
Because it's a max of 3, of course. So the next thing we would do is assign crew upgrades. Your crew has 2 already that we talked about, and then you're going to pick 2 additional ones. Alternatively, you can spend your 2 upgrades to gain a cohort, either a single person who's an elite or a gang.
Just a quick question about the abilities. Do you think we really should take Everyone Steals instead of Slippery? Since if you think about it, I think it might benefit us better to start off.
You roll into. I mean, we can pick up.
Worth taking earlier than later. I'll say that.
Everyone Steals seems. Yeah, Everyone Steals seems mildly better than Slippery. It'll benefit us more before Slippery does. Because, like, if we're lucky, I think we should be able to. This is entirely gaming it at this point. We should be able to advance once before we start another. Like by the time we finish our first job, if we do things in favor of our crew, Slippery would benefit us only once. By the time we would have been able to get it.
We'd have to have some pretty rough luck to get thrown in jail before we got the chance to do anything about it.
I mean, so long as you don't try to take down the lightning barrier and release demons into the city. I'm talking to you.
Well, I mean, if you're running away, no.
That happened.
I mean, for the types of operations that you guys are going to be orchestrating yourselves into, you're going to want to be more subtle anyways, so I don't see you doing a lot of stuff to gain heat unless things go real bad for you.
3 dots and Tinker, baby. I want to make stuff so good.
Which one do I take, though, is the question.
Yeah, I was going to say, keep in mind, it is you get to pick one of them to take an additional dot in.
Oh, I think Finesse kind of fits better with where I'm trying to end up.
Cool, because I'm taking Prowl.
Okay.
There you go.
That's a good spread, then.
That's us, all right.
So like I said, the next part is the upgrades, which you guys can see down there. It says like Thieves' Riggings, Underground Maps and Passkeys, Elite Rooks, Elite Skulks. I wouldn't invest in the Elite somethings until you have those somethings, just as kind of a tip here. And
then we can also take like layer quality training and cohort upgrades as well, right?
Yeah, you absolutely can. Cohorts cost you 2, though. Keep that in mind. So if you wanted to get a cohort, it's going to cost you both your upgrades right now.
I'd like to make the case for a workshop. Because without a workshop, whenever I or if Nelson ends up making something, I think it's either we go out and we acquire asset, all of the stuff we need to make our stuff, or we take like massive quality penalties.
Yep.
No, I think a workshop. No, workshop is cool.
Workshop it is.
Yeah, that doesn't do me much good, but it's important enough for both of you guys that I'm totally cool signing off on that.
I'll make you some stuff.
Yeah.
I would argue or propose resolve in training, since it would benefit all of us. Since I'm more of the ghostly guys, and you guys are the chatters, the sways, and that all sits within resolve.
Hmm.
What does underground maps and passkeys do for us?
Underground maps and passkeys, essentially, you guys would have good maps of like the sewer systems, keys that would get you past like gates and stuff like that. So like, if you wanted to break into somebody's house but not break in through the rooftops, and you wanted to enter through like the sewers, having that asset available to you means that you might have a better way to break in. Think about it in Assassin's Creed when you get to those missions where they're like, oh, take the secret passageway by climbing down the sewers and doing this rat's nest maze type thing.
And the training benefits only give us double experience when we take the training downtime action, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Not when we earn it via like desperate rolls.
Correct.
I'm down for resolve training.
How about you think
Unless
about that? We are at the next breaking point. So we're going to take our break real quick here. I'm going to shorten this one up to kind of catch us up with everything since we had a technical issue earlier. So about 3 minutes, we'll be back.
Quarters would also be cool. Cool.
It's that or you could wreck it. All right, so you guys have kind of given some thought to it. You guys have workshop right now. What was the second upgrade that you were looking at?
We were talking about quarters.
We could all live in the shop.
Little beds underneath the candle shop.
Well, it's a little room underneath the candle shop. And the beds, they could be in the room.
Is it a room or is it like a few rooms?
That's kind of up to you guys. I imagine it as you guys probably have like a warehouse that you've taken over, and like there's a storefront in the front, but like everybody just assumes that there's like candle making apparatuses in the back or stuff like that, and you guys could basically take that room and divide it up into personal rooms for the quarters.
I mean, it's not untrue. We do make candles back there.
Yeah,
There's a thing
that's
do
part
back.
of what the workshop is.
Yeah.
It's a good 20% of the workshop is candle making.
Yeah, I imagine the warehouse is kind of split up like half workshop, half rooms, and like a third of the workshop is just actually making candles for our semi-fake, semi-real candle business.
So there is a what is it?
Do we lose money on candles?
I think it's like just enough money that it kind of covers itself. Like it's not really going anywhere.
Yeah, we don't actually profit off of it, but it just stays. We're just making enough to pay for the next round of candle making.
So there is a turf option called a
Candle making?
cover operation, which isn't on your list as shadows. But if you wanted to have a cover operation, you could turn your store into like a legit cover for you, which is something that you guys could pursue in game as the story develops.
Interesting.
As far as how advancement on crew works is when you gain enough rep to gain an advancement, you get to pick a special ability or 2 upgrades. However, there's the list of claims that are available, which is that little chart that says stuff like Loyal Fence, Gambling Den, Turf on there. Those you guys can acquire at any point. You just tell me, hey, we want to gain some turf. And I set up the mission for you. And that's basically like you determining what you want your prize is for doing this mission.
I see.
So we move around on this chart just by narrative progression, right?
So you can technically take anything you want in any order you want. However, if you follow the lines that are on that chart, it's easier to get those things. So, like, for example, the cover operation is on a different playbook. That's going to be something that's kind of hard for you guys to get. So you may want to hold off for a little while and find somebody, like, once you get to, like, let's say tier 1, you have a little bit better weapons, that might be a good time to seek out a cover operation.
Covert drops. Oh!
That would be nice.
Yeah, covert ops
Yeah.
or covert drops is probably one of the ones that you guys are going to want to get pretty early because it fits your
Yeah, I was
characters.
gonna say. Yeah,
No,
it was.
I still don't get it. Sorry, this must be going right over my head. Like, how do we move around on this table, this chart?
If you look at the chart, there is little lines in between each one of them.
I mean, but like, how do we get them?
You
Like what?
start where it says lair, and then you can move out. But if you wanted to, let's
It's
say, take Hagfish Farm, which is way in the corner, and you'd have to go through 2 spaces to get to it, you could
it's
just
like
choose
actually
to
it's
take.
it's story progression.
Okay, so when we get
Like
covert
we will
drops,
do actual things in the actual game
Got it.
to get.
Exactly.
It's not like a tick bar or mechanic like the other things are.
Yep.
Thank you.
Think about it as like choosing your reward for a quest. You say, hey GM, we want to go on a quest to gain turf. Okay, here's your quest. And that's what I do.
Coolio. So, did we decide to get quarters?
I'm down with that if
Uh,
everyone else is
Yeah,
down.
I thought you already marked it.
I just wanted to make sure that's what everyone wanted.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
cool with it.
Contacts?
Next, we're going to actually talk about, now that you've assigned your upgrades, we're going to talk about the factions that have been affected by your choices. There's one faction that's going to be helping you when you achieve this upgrade, and you're going to get bonus status with them, and you can pay coin to make that even better. And there'll be one faction that's screwed over when you got this upgrade, and you're going to get negative status with them, or you can pay coin to make it less negative. To give you an idea on the negative, because that one's a little bit more pertinent to your situation at the moment. It starts as -2. If you pay 1 coin, it becomes -1. So looking at the faction list here, let me pull that back up. Here we go. As far as who your negative was, or let's see, Railjacks right now are from your hunting grounds. I'll just notate that right now. Let's talk about who benefited when you took this turf. So you guys were expressed an interest in basically the city of the district kind of being on your side. I like that idea, so I'm going to say that Night Market as a whole benefited from you guys stepping in.
I like it. Yeah.
So we get +1 with them?
Yes.
Sweet.
If you want to invest a coin, it can become +2. I'm going to take control of your crew sheet for a moment. And I'm going to switch you guys over to the faction mode and populate your factions real quick.
Yeah, that's definitely a good candidate for spending a coin, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Moving our Night District up to
Here we
+2.
go. So Night Market is a +1 right now. Your Railjacks currently are questionable because we haven't decided how you're going to spend that. However, you could bump the Night Market up to a +2. As far as people who are negatively affected by you guys, so I don't really want to double down on Railjacks. I think that would be unfair.
Uh-oh.
Actually, let me look at this gang real quick. Do I not have them on my list? Where did they go? Okay. Okay, I like that. It's kind of a weird twist. Because there's like a hidden underground occult thing going on in Night Market, I'm going to say the other one that you have a negative relationship is going to be the Reconciled, which are a group of ghosts that have gone kind of mad because they haven't passed on and they haven't really been possessing people, though they do occasionally. They're kind of a dangerous foe. They're going to start with a -2. You can spend a coin to make that a -1. If you do, however, keep that in mind about your Railjacks, which are currently... I'm going to say that as of right now, the Railjacks, you haven't paid them, so they're going to be a -1, just to kind of give us an idea of where our starting point is.
I thought the Reconciled were like the chill ghosts.
Let me just double check real quick here.
Like they have self-control and stuff.
Oh, yep, I misread that. Have not gone feral with the passage of time. Good job, me. In that case, let me change up what I was saying. Because of the occult nature of Night Market, they had plans for that area. And you guys being there interferes with their plans. And that's basically all that you know of right now.
Works for me.
I'm willing to pay a coin to get the reconciled down to -1. I'm terrified of us going to war.
Well,
Is that a group decision or is that a Simon decision?
If the party doesn't want to do, if the crew doesn't want to do it, I'll pay out of my own pocket.
Okay.
yeah, we probably shouldn't be going to war all that soon, but
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth it with what we're trying to do, kind of playing more of the information game rather than the brawling the brawling game. Keeping people off our backs for the first while we get established might be a good call. So I'm in favor of that too.
All right.
Okay.
So I'll take that out of crew coffers then,
Sounds good.
if we're in agreement.
Yeah. We'll toss a coin to bring them to -1.
And the Railjacks, did you guys want to pay them off, or did you want to improve your status with Night Market? I know that was one thing that that Jeff was interested in, was improving status with Night Market.
I kind of like
Yeah.
the idea of improving status.
I kind of
well.
that
Okay.
I definitely like the idea.
I mean, basically how it works is it's a -3 to a +3 scale. 3 meaning you're at war or they're your best buddies if it's positive. 2 is like they won't go out of their way to necessarily help or hinder you, but they could be swayed to do things against or for you. And a
That's
1
two.
is you have to make it worth their time for them to care about what you do. Like, they don't
Got it.
like you, but it's not like they're going to kill you on the streets or anything.
War is bad. I'm reading War right now, and
Yes.
war is bad.
War is real bad. However, there's some cool things that you can do. Like there's the War Dog feature from Bravos, which gets you an extra downtime action during war. Super handy. On Jeff's spider character sheet, there's a way to gain an extra downtime action, which would be also super handy during war. So let's go ahead and bump up Night Market here. So
Yeah, I
Night
think
Market,
that,
we have 2 Railjacks were -1, reconciled were -1. The last thing to do, I'm going to switch us back over to the crew mode, is to look at our contacts. We're going to pick one contact to be our positive one, essentially. We're not going to worry about a rival. That will develop as story goes along about who's against our gang. Our options here are an explorer, a blue coat, a deal broker, a collector, a noble, or a tavern owner. Tavern owner happens to be Rigney, which sounds cool, but at the same time, let me see who operates the Veil. Because
I'd like to be working with the Veil.
Because we already kind of seated ourselves in the Veil. Roland Valeris is the one who operates the Veil. And if you want, we could just change who that is in the playbook to be Roland instead of Rigney.
I'd definitely be down for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Plus,
kind of
we
like
get
that
to find
idea.
out if he's actually has a serpent legs. It says in the little the Veil bit that there's rumors that instead of legs, he has a snake.
Nice.
Right. Which,
It's from Tychus.
you know what? I would say that you guys having a positive relationship with him, you probably would have seen it at some point, because it's just this weird curiosity that everyone has, and he is definitely like Snake from the waist down.
Okay, then. That definitely doesn't fuel my obsession with the occult at all.
Okay. Going back into faction mode, again, this is where I step in and I tell you, okay, now that you're friends with this person, this is the baggage that he brings with you. He's going to give you a -1 and a +1 with different factions. He's actually going to give you a +1 with Church of the Ecstasy. In my head, I'm picturing him as kind of like a quasi-religious man. And he's going to bring a negative with... let's go with Ulf Ironborn, who is a noble from Skovlin, who has come here and is he's trying to start a gang of Bravos. He's fighting pretty much every gang in the district, and Roland just doesn't like the kid. He's loud, obnoxious. He's tipped over too many tables before, and he's just not good for business in the city. Perfect. And back over to crew mode here. Looks like we have everything set. We did talk about doing 3-hour segments at the beginning. I mentioned 4, but for us and our time scale, 3 hours is what we're going to be shooting for. We've got about 30 minutes left. What I'd like to do, if you guys are all cool with that, is basically lay the seeds for us to jump into the action inside the next time we gather up together, and basically make it to where we could roll our first check for going into the mission, the assessment roll, and then that will give me stuff to be able to supplement what our adventure is going to be. So I'm picturing that it's probably like a Sunday. Duskfall is kind of overly cloudy. It's kind of the break between winter and spring, where there's still snow falling, but it's warm enough that it doesn't really stick to the ground. You guys have kind of crunched your way through the sleet to get into the Vale, and you can smell that familiar smell that you're almost immune to. It's the smell of the candle wax that you guys have just around you all the time. It's seeped into your own clothing even. And all these different colored lights of greens and blues and reds and oranges are at different tables throughout the Vale. And you see Roland behind the counter cleaning a glass, and he kind of nods to you, and he does something that you guys have grown really accustomed to. He takes the glass he's cleaning and he flips it over upside down, taps it twice on the bar, and then flips it right side up. This is the signal that you've worked out with Roland to have him let you know that you have a customer waiting. You guys know that there's a booth in the back that Roland has set aside for business means, where you can meet with the customer. And as you kind of scope it out, because you guys are a little bit of a cautious lot, you see a young woman there with short cropped blonde hair. She's wearing kind of a tight dress that billows out at the waist. It's more of the iconic look of some of the higher class people in Akaros, but it looks to be a lot higher quality than some of the nobles of Akaros. If you had to venture a guess, she looks like she might be from the Imperial City.
Is she accompanied by any sort of guard, or if, examining the immediate area, does it look like there's anyone trying to blend in?
Yeah, so you don't see anybody like sitting with her, but with a study or survey, whichever you feel like is going to be the way that you approach it, that could reveal if there's anybody around that's kind of a bodyguard. A study would be actually like casing the joint, looking at people, really analyzing them. A survey would just be kind of a quick glance. Think of it like a perception check.
Yeah, I think I'd be doing that sort of uncomfortable.
Actually studying the scene. Okay. So click on the word study. It's going to pop up with a box, and it's going to ask you a couple questions. The first one is going to have 3 options inside there, asking you basically what the situation is. And you guys are in control right now, so the one I want you to pick is controlled. And then when you click next, it'll give you another set of 3 options, and your effect is going to be standard.
Okay.
If you want, however, you could actually bump this up to a risky move, which means somebody will detect that you're looking around like this, but get great effect, which means more information.
Damn it! All right, let me try that again. So yeah, I want to do it as risky.
Okay.
And it would make the effect great, correct?
Correct.
All right, so I submit that.
Okay, it's going to ask you next if there are any bonus dice. So you can gain a bonus die if you push yourself, which will cost 2 stress. Someone assists you, which Jeff has an ability to assist you for free. Like maybe he's coached you on how to identify people in the crowd. Or you could take a devil's bargain, which is me offering you a thing that will possibly make things worse for you in the future. I will throw out my devil's bargain just to kind of get you an idea of what they look like. And you can just, of course, say yes or no to it, and that's up to you. but you cannot push and receive a devil's bargain. But you can get aid and get a devil's bargain, or get aid and push, just to give you an idea. So the devil's bargain I'm going to give you is, if there's someone here protecting her, they're going to know that you're scoping people out and assessing people. So they're probably going to assume that you're the muscle.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and throw out there that Ronan almost assuredly would have told you before, having kind of grown up on the streets. You probably wouldn't have had a good as eye for it as he would, but like, just kind of like flashing back where he's basically telling you like, okay, the easiest way to spot the guard of a noble woman is the way that they look at this person like that, and the way that the clothing that they might wear might be something like this. Mm-hmm. Basically, he's given you this list before of like the noble people and how they might be accompanied.
So I think, amongst other things, like his sort of long duster, probably covered in spatters of multicolored wax, wearing his tricorn, possibly tipping it up a little bit too high to clear his field of vision. You said that I can get assistance and take a devil's bargain?
You absolutely can.
I'm going to go for that.
Okay.
So that's going to give me...
give yourself 2 bonus dice inside there.
Yeah.
And then go ahead and click roll, which I'm going to go ahead and turn on my handy dandy thing here so that everybody can see our rolls. If I click on the right thing.
Ooh.
There we go.
There we go. So with your study, you got a 6. Basically, when I look at the chart of, there's like a rules reference 1 inside there. If I look at there, I can see that this is a risky. You got a 6, which means you do it. There's not going to be any consequences with it. Kind of like in Dungeon World, a 6 is a success. A 4 to 5 is like a mid-level thing. It's successful, but there's going to be a cost. And then a 1 to 3 means that there's going to be a failure. It does kind of differentiate depending on the situation, but looking through the crowd, you see a man who's got a jacket that's just a little too tight for him, and he reaches across the table for his drink, and you can see, and it's like a hear thing that you get as well. You can hear the seams on his shoulders start to kind of stretch and sway, like strain underneath the bulk of the man, and he just feels out of place. His jacket is a little bit out of style. It's a uniform that has been dumbed down to almost like street clothing, so it stands out quite a bit, at least for a trained eye like yours. The gentleman has a young woman across from the table with him that, if you had to venture a guess, because of the different like totems that she has on her, she's probably a whisper as well. So it seems that this noble woman is not only packing muscle, she's also packing somebody that's got some occult background.
So, I kind of like, I guess with Ronan being right there, like he's right there, so I could just elbow him to be like, hey, kind of pointing with the tip of the tricrown in the direction. Just like, maybe throwing a glance over my shoulder to Simon, letting them that I spot their muscle there as well.
Yeah, and Ronan, without even turning his head, just pointing only with his eyes, just kind of takes a quick note of him.
Yeah, kind of looking him over, you all kind of get the feeling that they're probably not the best that she could have hired, but they're at least capable. To give you kind of an idea, you guys are tier 0, which means you're kind of the bottom of the bucket right now. These guys, just by looking at them, you'd assume they're probably a tier 1 or tier 2. They're not the best, but they're not the worst either. Okay. What do you do from here?
I'm so tempted. Oh, I get an experience point for the risky thing, right?
Desperate.
It's only
desperate.
Rolls. Yep.
Okay. Uh, I'm kind of tempted to do something that might not necessarily be the best thing.
Like lightning bolt her?
No, not lightning bolt her, but like after pointing them out, whispering into Ronan's ear, and go like, "Go ahead and do your thing," and just walk up to their table and grab a chair from a different table, and then spin it around and sit down with them. Just say, "Hey."
Okay. I like that as the GM because that's a thing that could complicate things. If you want to go for it, I encourage it.
Yeah, and I almost imagine as you go to walk up towards the table, like Ronan almost like goes to grab your shoulder as if to stop you, but realizes that'd be like way too conspicuous, and just like with a trying his best not to grimace, just like nods over as you walk over.
Simon will follow Slate.
Okay, so the two of you go to sit down with the noblewoman, and we'll get to you in just a second, but Slate, you spin the chair around and you sit down, and the man who has stretched his coat to like the breaking point has his glass halfway up like he's about to drink, and then he suddenly realizes that you're now at his table. He sets it down and looks at you, and he says, "Oi, what do you want?"
So it's him setting down his drink. Slate a look, and he's like, "Oh no, please, don't stop on my behalf. Drink up."
There's plenty of tables. Why don't you move on over?
Well, no, I don't like to drink alone, and you look like a couple of individuals I can get along with.
He looks to the woman, and he says, "What do you think, Delilah?" And she says with like this half smile, "I tell you what, if you buy us both a drink, we'll let you stay. If you prove to be yourself a good conversationalist, you can stay longer. But you can stay at least as long as it takes for us to finish our drinks."
Oh, conversation! I can do conversation wonderfully. A lot of people say that I'm a wonderful conversationalist.
I assume that it just kind of goes into very like surface level conversation between the three of you for a while, and the camera shifts back over to the booth. The woman sees the two of you sit down.
It comments on pretty name. The big guy is a little bit too big for his clothing, too big for his britches.
The camera shifts over to the other.
I could hear his coat crying a little bit. It's a little depressing, but yeah.
So the camera shifts over to Ronan and Simon sitting down in the booth, and the young woman is almost startled at first as you come up, and she quickly kind of just straightens out the side of her little bob cut that she's got going on, and she puts her hands steepled on the table, and she says, Are you who I'm supposed to be speaking with? Roland promised me the utmost discretion."
By looking at her, she's new to this, isn't she?
Oh, absolutely. The fact that she even like questioned you guys is a dead giveaway that she's probably never done anything like this before.
How old is she?
Looking her over, she seems to be about probably in her early 20s.
Yes. We're the ones you're supposed to be talking to. You are?
She kind of hesitates, and she goes, "Well, you can call me Ruby." And it's almost like a sudden realization that the fake name that she's using, she's wearing a lot of silver and ruby necklace, earrings. Like it's the gem that she actually wears a lot of. So that alias makes a lot of sense with her. It's probably the first thing that she thought of. But she's at least smart enough to know not to use her real name when she's talking to you guys.
And almost offhandedly, just basically seeing how new she is to this and seeing if we might be able to score just the touch of extra information. Just kind of leans down casually, just kind of puts on his best nobleman smile. Just come on, you don't need. You can drop the fake names with this.
I'm gonna need a sway from you. This one is going to be risky. And standard effect. However, if you want to bump it to desperate, you can achieve great effect.
I think I'll hold off on the
if you take great
desperate
effect,
now,
you're going to
yeah.
actually find out who her family is. If you take standard effect, she'll give you a first name if you're successful.
Is this sway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll toss a help in there. I have a point in sway. That makes sense. Just
Um,
fast talking her. Just like, oh, you can trust us. I'm Simon.
Oops.
And I hold out my hand.
For a devil's bargain, which
I
you can
accidentally
again
put the
gain-
roll. I accidentally hit submit. So
Okay. I mean, if you want to take the devil's bargain, we can add the die to it, but the devil's bargain is giving her your real name instead of just Ronan. If you
I'm
were to do
helping
that,
too,
she
so
would
you
feel
can
more
toss
comfortable
a
about giving
extra
her
die
her
in
name.
there.
yeah, let me put another roll in there. You know what? I am absolutely gonna do that.
Okay.
Your real name's everywhere anyway.
5. That puts us. Yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
he basically just kind of calmly just, I'm Kent, and he kind of reaches his hand out.
She's going to get your whole name because she's about to give you her whole name.
Yeah, Kent King.
She looks at you and Simon, and because Simon is kind of ambiguous as far as gender, Simon's passable as a man, so she kind of sees the genuineness, at least in you, and relaxes her what little guard she has, and she says, I'm sorry, this is all new to me. My name's... And she kind of leans in real close. Seltha Templeton. And the name Seltha doesn't strike a chord with you, but the Templeton name does. It's a family that conducts business mainly from the imperial capital, but they trade in Leviathan blood, and not just like small amounts to be able to power, like, for example, Duskfall, but like in multiple Leviathans at a time, like actually putting the blood where it needs to go throughout the whole empire. They're one of the families that actually facilitates that.
And upon hearing the name, all the cogwheels in Ronan's mind immediately begin to turn at the sight of this name, but his face doesn't reveal any of that as he just kind of nods. So, what can we do for you, miss?
I've been concerned for my father. Roth has enemies in Duskfall. Leviathan hunter captains, and even some of these, and she kind of curls her lip a little bit as she says it, blood traders. They're encroaching on my family's business, and there's one of them that seeks to destroy the Templeton name. The only thing that I've heard is that they're referred to as Song here in Duskfall. I've done some research, but I haven't gotten anywhere. I've been told that you might be my best opportunity to find who Song is and why they're doing this to my family.
Well, you've made a great choice. We are accomplished private investigators, and we will find out exactly what you need to know when you need to know it.
She nods and she brings out some paperwork, and she goes, "This is what first drew my attention to him. she slides it over, and you're going to notice, Ronan, that these are ship manifests. They have times and things like that on there. This is all stuff that you would have been very accustomed to seeing. Even Simon would have seen this kind of stuff before with like Master Helker controlling it. But there are discrepancies inside there, and there's little notes that have been written in like the margin, and it looks like little musical notes. Being an artist, Ronan, you kind of run through your basic fundamental music understanding because it's something that you grew up with in the academy, and you kind of look at the notes and you see that there's a pattern amongst all of them. The different letters would correspond to a scale, and once you break it down, it's actually a cipher. And the notes itself end up spelling out the final song will play for the Templetons. Leviathans will be free. And it's something that you can tell she hasn't figured out yet, because as you begin spacing out the pages, she's instantly curious in what you're doing. And I imagine that you probably have taken out a pen and just kind of made some stray marks that only really you would understand. And she's like trying to loom in and see what you're doing.
Yes, and he basically is just making these small like dots and slashes, almost like a shorthand Morse code kind of thing that he just writes to himself just to take notes, just kind of making these small marks here and there. And I imagine as she kind of leans in over trying to see what he's doing, just kind of gives her a nod, just like, leave me alone for a moment, as he kind of works all this out. And then when he finishes decoding the message, he basically just leans over to Simon and whispering to him, whispers the message, but doesn't say it out loud to her.
She sees the two of you whispering, and before you can really even get to her, she gets kind of excited about the whole thing, and she says, look, I don't need you to do anything but find out who he is. I know that taking care of problems like this isn't really your thing. I can provide my own men. I can solve it if I need to myself, but I need to know who I have to go find, who I have to oust. I'm inclined to think it's another noble house, but at this point it could be anyone.
You have any direct hunches? Anyone who you know who's got it out?
I can't say that he is really against my family, but Chief Helker and my father, they've had some aggravated conversations lately. Chief Helker has tried to explain to my father that the Leviathan hunts have been going poorly during the winter, and my father just will not take anything less than excellence. He might be involved, but Chief Helker's been like an uncle to me. I can't imagine that he's behind it all. He's the only one that has any motive that I've seen. My father keeps me away from the business, so it's hard for me to say.
Have you heard of anyone taking umbrage with your family's line of profession, the hunting and the harvesting?
Yeah, I mean, there are the ghost cults. They believe that the Leviathans are not something to ascend to like the Church of the Ecstasy believes. They believe that hunting them is disrupting a balance that's been struck a long time ago, but it's just fairy tales, really. In the Imperial capital, there's a new group of environmentalists that believe that we should leave them alone because they serve an important purpose in the ocean, but what they serve, I can't imagine. Obviously, those people have never seen a Leviathan up close.
Have any of them spoken out against your family, made threats, had any contact?
She kind of thinks about it and she says, yeah, there was an Akarosi woman, Brenna Colburn. She was very vocal the last shipment that we received in from Duskfall of unprocessed Leviathan. I remember her saying that she would put a stop to it one way or another, but my father said he took care of it.
Simon leans in. Have you ever been on one of the boats? Like, really been on them?
Is that leaning into her or leaning into Ronan?
Her.
Okay. She
playing into that obsession.
She says, only when they're in harbor, protected by lightning barriers.
What's it like?
She kind of looks at you a little confused, but she's willing to give you the information because she thinks that you're looking for something to help. So she
definitely was just interested in boats.
Yeah. So she kind of begins describing this ship, and the best way to think about it is it's almost like a carrier in size. It's this huge metal monstrosity with these barbs and tools that are designed specifically for hunting Leviathan. And she kind of goes on for a little while and gets fairly detailed in what a Leviathan hunter ship actually looks like. Details that you wouldn't have been able to see from just living on the docks. Like stuff about like what color the walls were and stuff like that. And then she kind of stops about halfway through this like really detailed description of her visit to the Leviathan hunter ship, and she says, I'm sorry, I don't understand. How does this help find Song?
Well, the individual that has threatened your family is very interested in the Leviathans. They've threatened via something that Ronan figured out that the Leviathans will be free, and I thought the boat would be important clue in that. Turns out it probably isn't, but thank you for the information.
Yeah, and Rowan kind of butts in towards the end of this. Just
give me a
the more that sorry, go ahead.
Give me a consort roll if you would. Risky, great. You can drop it down to controlled standard if you want, but I'm not going to let you take it up any higher.
Oh, that's what I'm looking for. I just have to scroll up on my character sheet. Consort, not sway. Definitely consort.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be consort for this one, because you've kind of gotten her talking about stuff that she really shouldn't be talking about.
Risky, great. So I have 0 in that.
Okay. Devil's Bargain. Her cohorts at the table over will actually hear the conversation and take an immediate interest in what she's about to divulge with you.
I'll push myself instead. Anyone want to help?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
I can lie to people. I can't talk to people outright.
I'll jump in and help. And basically, how I'll do this is when she kind of stops to say like, "Well, why do you guys need to know this?" Ronan just kind of leans in a little bit. Well, if we're gonna find out who this person is, clearly they know a lot about it. So if we're gonna find him, we need to act like we know a lot about it. So anything we can know, no matter how trivial it may seem, it's gonna help us get closer.
Okay.
Here goes.
Do you want to use
Woo!
your free one, or are you going to pay
You're a
2 stress?
lightsaber.
Okay. With a 6, she kind of unconsciously blurts it out, and she says, well, there is a new device that's been added to the ships, and maybe that's what they're looking for. And she kind of leans in real close, and you can see her look to her guards who have been successfully distracted by Slate. And she gets like just almost too close to you guys over this candle, and she says, Professor Dava from the Dagger Isles, she's invented a device that when a whisper properly channels into it, we can call the Leviathans to our ships. It'll revolutionize Leviathan hunting.
That is intriguing. That will help us greatly. Yes.
I think Simon will recognize the name Professor Dava. Dava is a Dagger Isles woman that has traveled from different colleges around the world, and she's known as an eccentric among the academic society, but she's just obscenely brilliant. Like, when she shows up and does a conference with students, she looks like a damn pirate. She comes in with, like, a tricorn, a sword at her hip, and, like, tattoos running all over her, like, half-exposed body. And then she talks about, like, metaphysical, like, physics and random, like, super in-depth topics. So she's popular for more than one reason amongst the colleges.
Did anybody catch that?
Nope. I heard colleges.
Yeah, you cut out for a second there.
What I was trying to say was, Professor Dava,
Looks
you're
like
going to
a pirate.
recognize the name, Simon. She is a Dagger Isles woman that is, like, covered in tattoos, and she looks like a straight up pirate when she goes to colleges and gives lectures. She's, like, half naked, tricorn, and tattooed, and then she talks about, like, metaphysical physics and stuff like that, like, just super in-depth topics that you would not expect to come from a woman that looks like that.
I need to meet this lady. It's going on the goals list. I'm meeting this lady.
Okay, I'm just adding her to my list here. She then kind of leans back as Slate. You're going to notice that the two guards have suddenly realized too late that their person they're supposed to be protecting has leaned in and whispered probably some confidential information. They start to lean forward as she, like, resets herself back into the steepled position. Slate, if you want, you could try to distract them again and get them back into focusing on you.
Yeah, sure, most definitely.
Okay. How would you like to go about that?
I see them, like, leaning.
Yeah.
Like they're taking to whichever one of them is actually most position facing their charge. I want to act overly friendly, throw my arm, like, around their shoulder with, like, a drink in my hand. Like, and that's what I said, that's what you get for pressing the button while standing in that much water, right? Like, starting at the
Delilah that you throw the arm over, which is weird
Okay.
because she's the only one that's actually been listening to you. So when you
just
say
froze
that, she
again.
starts laughing because she's followed the story so far. And it's weird because normally you don't get a lot of people that actually listen to your story. Was I dead again? Anything?
Yeah, you're
Yep,
moving
you're
now.
back.
Okay. The person you throw your arm over is Delilah. She starts laughing immediately because she's actually been paying attention to your story this whole time. And she realizes the funniness of the story that you're telling her. But the other guy who you've learned his name is Grip. Grip has just like stopped to look at you like, why do you have your arm around Delilah? Like he's no longer paying attention because he's jealous. I do need a roll, and I'm going to say that that's probably a consort to keep them distracted. And that'll determine if Grip does anything stupid.
All right. Risky, right?
I'm going to say this one's desperate, actually. So go ahead and mark your experience.
Yay.
Spirit.
And it's going to be a standard effect, because Grip actually has like a huge crush on Delilah.
Wait, which one was this again? You said consort?
Consort.
Consort. Yeah.
He's frozen right now, but it's definitely consort.
Correct.
Desperate and what position?
It's desperate with a standard effect.
What did Grip have?
Grip has a hard crush on Delilah, and this might end badly.
Outside, Whisper.
I'm gonna
girlfriend
push
for Whisper.
myself.
Okay.
So, oh, dang it! It closed the window again. All right, desperate, standard, and I get one bonus die. So
I'm gonna build a Leviathan horn. It's gonna be great.
Oh god.
Nope.
Okay.
Oh,
So
no.
with a 1 on a desperate, this is the worst outcome. You have the possibility of suffering severe harm, serious complication, or lose an opportunity for action. I think I'm going to do this a little bit different than what most would do. He takes the glass that he's been drinking and he just quickly palms it and puts it to where the rim is facing towards you, and he just smashes it into you. The glass, because that's the hardest way to break a glass, does not break when it hits you, and it leaves just this nasty ring on your face.
Oh crap!
Delilah gets up inside
He's
his
going-
face and
he's
starts
going
yelling
rough.
at him.
So good.
And that is going to be level 3 harm, unless you use armor to reduce that, or you resist it, which you can do both, actually.
I don't have armor.
What
You can always pick.
you can always
Can
pick
take-
it. You guys probably came in this situation with a light load. Since I was establishing backgrounds, we didn't set loads, but you could say that you have light or medium, which would mean that you have enough for armor.
All right, so I'm gonna use an armor.
Okay. So
So
on
I
your character
click-
sheet, you
Yeah.
let me pull up your character sheet real quick here.
I have a proposal about the veil that this brings into question. Have you guys ever seen John Wick?
The first, not the second.
I'm proposing that the veil be the equivalent of the Continental.
All right.
You
So
You don't hurt people in the veil. No weapons allowed.
for Nelson, your load being light would be 3 items. If you use your armor, armor takes up 1 slot.
Okay.
Or sorry, it takes up 2 slots for armor. So you'll have 1 slot available left. You see where it is on the character sheet where it says armor and
Yeah,
it's got
yeah.
2 boxes tied?
Yeah.
Crap, armor got heavier.
Yeah, it did.
So I'd have like a spirit mask and armor as my light load.
Yeah. So when he pops that glass at you, I imagine that you probably just lean back a little bit because that's just natural reaction, and it's gonna chink off of like your shoulder pad, and that's enough of like deflected energy that it's gonna shatter the glass, and the glass is gonna come to you. So instead of being like concussion level 3 harm, it's level 2 harm of lacerations. However,
Alright.
you can resist it as well and drop it down to level 1 harm if you want.
Um, and resisting
If
is
you
I
want to
take
resist, what we would do is pick out insight, prowess, or resolve that makes sense for this scene, and you'll click on that. I think prowess makes the most sense because you're literally
yeah.
dodging.
So I'll use prowess.
Okay? When you do that, it should bring up a window and ask you if you have any bonus dice. As of right now, you don't. However, if somebody has a plausible way to assist you, they could.
Oh. Well, I got
You got
6.
a critical success. That's 2 6s inside there. So
Holy
that's
crap.
going to, I'm going to say instead of dropping it to a 1, it's actually going to drop it off completely. No harm is going to be done. So when he
No
pops the
stress.
glass on your shoulder pad actually comes completely off and it's no longer useful to you, but the whole glass just shatters outwardly. Like a piece of glass hits the woman Delilah, and it instantly diffuses the situation. She's now bleeding a little bit. He feels terrible about what he did, and it's just like this huge scene. Everybody in the Vale is staring at them like, what in the hell are you doing? Because fighting doesn't happen in the Vale.
Yeah. I think I want to. I, Slate can't help but press the situation. No, now knowing that it's going to keep attention on him rather than his allies, he's gonna be like, "Hey, what the? Oh," and like wherever she got scratched, like kind of like brush the blood away and ask Delilah, "Is she okay?" I don't know.
Like you pull
I
out
don't
your
know
own
what.
personal hanky and like wrap
Yeah,
her
yeah.
hand.
Like the whole nine. Like maybe dip it in a little of one of the remaining glasses and kind of like clean the blood off her face. And basically pander to Delilah.
The woman who called herself Ruby, Miss Templeton there, she looks over at her guards and she says, I'm sorry. It appears my underlings have made a scene. I should probably leave before anyone notices that they're with me. It'll draw too many conclusions towards my presence here in Duskwell.
We'll be in touch.
She nods and she says, you can keep that paperwork, and hands you another envelope. This one has some contact information, ways that you could get a hold of her. For not being very experienced in it and seeming very green, she included like a dead drop spot for you, which seems way more advanced than what she's presented you with so far. As a way to establish connection with her.
Maybe she's receiving instruction from someone else. Preparation was probably done by maybe your father, maybe someone else close. But social stuff, she can't make that up. She can't prepare for that.
Okay. And let me pull this up here. All right, so that is it for our time tonight. What we'll do is next time we will kind of start in the middle of action. The cool thing about Blades of the Dark is because we have the opportunity to do flashbacks and things like that, we don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time planning for how we're going to do things. You know that this is involving a couple different people like Brenna Colburn. You know about the Leviathan ships and stuff like that. What I'm going to do is we're going to do a information gathering part at the beginning because there's still a couple holes missing before you can determine exactly how you want to approach this. And then once you figure it out, we'll do an entanglement roll and we'll jump right in the action. And if like we need to do a flashback and talk about the recording device that Lewis invented, then we'll do that during that. Just because I want to address those questions and get that done. If you want, I'll say that you had the device during this conversation. You could have recorded everything. I just want to go through those questions with you so that we have it written down and understood.
Got it.
All
Do you
right,
want to do that now or is that later?
We'll do it later for our next session.
Cool.
With that said, guys, I am Chris with Drop Dice. I have Jeff with Encounter Balance, Nelson from Infinite Roleplay, and Lewis from Lewis? That sounds about right for right now.
Lewis from mostly this channel, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna say you show up a lot on here, especially when Blades in the Dark is there. You tend to be the first person who's like, "It pick me."
I love this system.
I like it a lot too. I'm actually working on a couple of settings of my own, and I'm interested to see how they turn out. It does a lot of things well that I am interested in RPGs, so it's turning out to be one of my favorite systems right now. With that said, guys, thank you for tuning in very much. Check out these guys' channels. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe for all of them, and check out their games. I know Jeff's got at least 2 games on the books right now, maybe 3.
Yeah, I have 1 game that's recorded, and I got 2 that are going to be coming up in the next 2 weeks.
Right, and then Nelson has got at least 1 or 2 going each week, pretty much.
Yeah.
So definitely check out their channels for more action. Nelson is ever presently working on 2 different systems. One of them being that Saturday morning tabletop, which I think you're doing a live play of soon, right?
I've actually been doing a campaign every Monday, and next week, Wednesday at 12 p.m., I'll be doing a live play with Nerdarchy on Nerdarchy's channel.
Oh, cool! I didn't realize that. I'll definitely have to check that out. With that said, guys, thanks for tuning in, and as always, I'll see you at the gaming table.